Hello everyone, and welcome to the Passionate Lesson Program. Today we will be talking about a topic that is quite popular on my channel, which is communication. Today's lesson is quite in-depth, and if you can apply what you learn, I believe you will feel more at ease and comfortable wherever you go. You will be able to easily connect with strangers and acquaintances alike. The best part is that you can be yourself while still being able to attract and win over others. Of course, you have to want to do this in order to achieve these results. So, welcome to a reveal of something that poor communicators forget. Just remembering this one thing will put you on the path to good communication and interesting conversations that people will enjoy. Before I reveal it, I want to say that communication is one of the topics that I have made a lot of videos about, and they are all very popular with you. Some of the videos have hundreds of thousands or even millions of views. So I have compiled them into a playlist that you can find by searching for Jiao Tip Web 5 Ngay on YouTube. I will also leave a link to the playlist in the comments below. At the end of this video, I will also leave a link to the communication playlist so that you can easily access these free resources. Okay, now let's get into the main topic. What is the one thing that poor communicators forget? It's something that people often forget, and it's a critical mistake. I guarantee that when I reveal it, you will have a light bulb moment. You will suddenly understand the path, the tactics, and even the strategies for good communication. The reveal is actually a question that I want to ask you. When you meet someone and you want to communicate with them, do you ever ask yourself this question? How do I want the other person to feel after talking to me? This question is very important. It determines the success or failure of the conversation. It will paint a horizon that will turn you into a competent communicator. I want to emphasize the word competent. It shows a level of skill. The most important question is, how do I want the other person to feel after talking to me? This is the formula for success in communication, because success in communication depends on how the other person feels after interacting with you. If you meet someone and you think you spoke well, but they think you are rude, then I ask you, is this a success? Probably not. If one person says you are rude, then you might just be unlucky. But if you meet 10 people and 9.5 of them say you are rude, boring, or annoying, then the problem lies in your communication skills. Of course, the word skill sounds heavy, but it is also a sky of hope, because skills can be improved, practiced, and developed. But when it comes to talent, well, that's a different story. So let's go back to the question, how do I want the other person to feel after talking to me? How do we answer this question? And don't answer with general things like, I want the other person to feel happy, smart, or interesting. What does interesting mean? Please be specific. There are 1,000 different ways to be interesting. You need to find a specific characteristic, personality trait, or something wonderful that is very, very specific. Something that people can immediately relate to. Now, to make it easier for you to visualize, let's write the question down on a piece of paper. I have a piece of paper here. How do I want the other person to feel after talking to me? Now, let's list some answers. The more the better. For example, they feel heard or they feel trust, meaning that maybe you are knowledgeable and you have answers and solutions to their questions. You are trustworthy. You are knowledgeable. That's the second option. The third option is that you want them to feel happy, humorous, or funny after talking to you. List as many as you can. Basically, you don't have to rush to answer these questions. You can take a month to think about it. But remember, this is worth it because it will turn you into a competent communicator. 4 words that are the dream of many people. If you can't communicate, many doors will close in your life. They won't open for you because if you can't communicate, how can people understand you? How can they like you? How can they bring opportunities to you? Communication is very important. Next, I want them to feel that I am sincere, that I care about them, and that they feel that after talking to me. Or the next option is that I want them to feel that I am straightforward. So we have listed a bunch of answers. Now let's move on to the second step, which is to find the characteristics in the answers that have the win-win property. Win-win means that I feel like I'm winning, you feel like you're winning, and the other person feels like they're winning. That's the literal meaning. But actually, the win-win property here means that when I act according to this trait, I feel comfortable, and the other person also feels valued. Let's call it win-win in this situation. Actually, win-win is a very famous concept by Stephen Covey. So now, let's go back to the bunch of answers that we listed on the screen and find one, just one, that has the win-win property. I live by this trait, I feel comfortable, and the other person also feels comfortable receiving it. Now let's analyze each one. For example, bluntness, straightforwardness. These are traits that people with low EQ, meaning low emotional intelligence, don't understand. They just say what they want to say without considering the feelings of others. And so, many conversations break down and fail, and they don't even know where they went wrong. That's the problem with people who have high IQ, meaning they are very intelligent, but their EQ is low, meaning their emotions are very weak, so they can't feel what others are thinking. Now, back to the story of bluntness. Is this a win-win trait in communication? Am I comfortable using it? For example, if I have this trait, I feel comfortable. Okay, that's my part. But does the other person feel comfortable? Are they ready to receive bluntness? It's not easy to answer, and it's very possible that they don't like bluntness. So don't use it, because I said before, successful communication depends a lot on what the other person thinks after talking to you. That's the big question on the screen that you are seeing. So this trait doesn't have the win-win property, so let's discard it. Now let's find the second trait. For example, I am basically an introvert. No matter who I am, no matter how proficient I am in communication skills, no matter how well I can speak in front of many people and get better at it, I am still an introvert. That means I feel most comfortable in the introvert form. And a person with an introverted personality usually doesn't talk much. They tend to listen more. So in a conversation, for example, they only speak about 30% of the time and let the other person speak 70%, or maybe 40-60. It depends. There is no specific percentage, but usually they will speak less and listen more. So when I am an introvert, like me, I feel like if I talk too much, it will easily go wrong, even though I can talk. So when I look at the new answers, my intuition immediately chooses the answer of being a good listener. So this is a perfect answer for me, a win-win trait. When someone meets a good listener, according to you, whether they like it or not, they absolutely love being listened to attentively. Sincere listening is a luxury in today's world where everyone wants to talk, right? So there might be some people who don't actually enjoy listening, but I'm certain that most people do. No argument there, huh? This is a trait that I consider a win-win situation. I feel comfortable in a conversation where I listen more, and I'm confident that the other person also appreciates my attentiveness. So, I've completed step 2. What is step 2? It's identifying a win-win trait. Now let's move on to step 3. It's quite easy, folks. We just take it slow and steady, focusing on real people and real situations. After we've identified a trait, a sort of magical arrow, a powerful communication weapon, we need to develop it. We need to view it as a skill to be honed, and this is where we need to learn about listening skills. I find it worth learning, don't you? There are numerous books, resources, and scientific studies on listening skills that you can easily find and learn from. And I want to emphasize this very important point. If you haven't done steps 1 and 2, you'll be lost in the vast world of communication skills. Because communication skills encompass a wide range of things. You might be an introvert, but if you learn how to speak, you can still develop, but it will be slow and uncomfortable, forcing you to do something you're not at ease with. And that's not a win-win trait. On the other hand, if you learn to listen, you'll feel like a fish in water, developing rapidly and becoming a well-liked person. For example, when I discovered this tendency in myself, I focused on learning listening skills. And as I learned, I realized it's not just about sitting there like a log, nodding mindlessly to everything someone says. That would make people dislike you even more. The key is that besides listening, you need to know how to ask questions. For introverts like me, there are only 2 things: listen and ask questions. Of course, we can still share a little bit, so let's say 3 things, but the third one is minimal. The main focus is on the first 2. 1. Listen attentively. 2. Ask questions. That's it. For a concrete example, let's say a lady tells me, hey, next week I'm on a business trip to Fukuoka. Could you do me a favor? That's me listening first. Now, a question forms in my mind, and I base it on what she just told me. So I reply, what's up? If I respond with something like, I just got back from there too. It's boring, nothing fun there. I've encountered this kind of insensitive response many times. It shows a lack of emotional intelligence, a failure to understand the other person's feelings. It's quite dangerous because it can offend them. They're trying to share, and I'm aiming to improve my communication skills, meaning I care about how they feel after talking to me. And what do they think after I say that? It seems like they're not listening to me, just wanting to talk about their own experience. It's all ruined, you see. That's why some people don't like talking to us, and we don't even understand why. We might be making these mistakes. Now back to my story. I would listen first and find a question. And this question, ideally, should be related to some emotion. A question about feelings based on the information they just shared. What are emotions? Joy, sadness, excitement, enthusiasm, love, hate, etc. Just ask about things related to those. It seems simple, but it's not that difficult. If we're close, I'd say, wow, a business trip to Fukuoka? Sounds fun. That's all it takes, and they'll respond however they want. But I'm mentioning emotions here, which is also a way to probe, you see, to see if they actually like this trip or not. They might reply, no, it's boring. I'm not going for fun. It's work. It's so boring. I'd continue listening and asking, following up on what they just said. Really? That boring? I've never been on a business trip like that. I thought it would be fun. It's boring? Then they'll respond, maybe even before they do, I can guess. Yeah, it's boring. I'll be staying at a resort, but I have to meet clients. No time for fun. It's frustrating. Then I think about what to ask next. I keep asking questions related to their story, showing my interest and attentiveness. I might say, so, you'll be working all day? Meeting clients all day? No time to explore? They'll answer. If I ask further, it's like I'm talking, but it feels like I'm listening. They won't feel like I'm not listening. They're just waiting to interrupt so they won't feel like. And in reality, after this conversation ends, I've already achieved my goal, which is to make them think about how they feel after talking to me. If their feelings match what I had in mind, then it's a success. Of course, this might require practice and careful thought, but with frequent practice, you'll definitely get there. Or another example, something very simple. Someone asks you, want to grab bubble tea this afternoon? I'm telling you, if you truly want to excel at communication, you can be good in any situation, even with the simplest sentences. For instance, since I choose the listening and sharing approach, this question is also an opportunity. I'd appeal to their emotions. Hey, which kind do you like? Any new flavors? Show me. I'm praising them, tapping into their emotions, maybe their pride. So what will they do? They'll recommend the 8 best and newest bubble teas. See, the conversation becomes interesting. I talk, they talk. But essentially, the core of this interaction is me listening to them more. That's the idea. So even a small thing like inviting someone for tea or bubble tea is a chance to connect, to make them feel comfortable and enjoy talking to you. And when that enjoyment of talking to you increases, it's very likely that opportunities will arise where they think of you first. This is a very practical thought. For example, if you're a manager and you get promoted, who do you think of first to fill your position? You think of the person you feel most comfortable and enjoy talking to the most. It's always like that. So, those who aren't good at communication often think that people who are good at it are always flattering or manipulative. But that's not true. It's a matter of skill, because communication builds trust between people. And that's a skill, not flattery or luck. No one can feel comfortable talking to someone who's awkward at communication. Another example, a very simple situation. You see someone who's feeling under the weather. My mind starts racing, I'm telling you. I've already mentioned that communication for introverts and shy people is simply about listening and asking. So you look and ask, feeling under the weather? Sick? That's all. They reply, yeah, I have a headache. What do you do next? You'd ask, have you taken any medicine? Is it better? Are you tired? Is there anything I can help with? I'm done with my work. I can help if you need anything. Here, I'm saying that the other person doesn't necessarily have to be male or female. It could be anyone. Imagine the person hearing that. Wouldn't they appreciate you? How could they not? There are countless ways to approach this, but remember, the key is 1. Listen, 2. Ask, and then don't talk about yourself. But that's the main point throughout this whole discussion. It means step 1 is asking, how do I want others to feel after talking to me? Answer that, right? Then ask, among these traits, which one is win-win? Identify it, learn, practice, and apply. That's all. So in this episode, part 1, I only used examples of shy people who don't talk much. What about those who want to talk more? How can they make others think they're outgoing? We'll save that for part 2. I'll continue until we're done. See you next week. For now, bye-bye everyone. Goodbye, and see you again. Feel free to share your interests, topics you'd like to explore, or stories you want to share with the community. We're eager to hear and learn from you. Let's create a positive space where we can grow and change together for the better every day.